Uno is a 108 card game, with the objective of being the first player to get rid of all your cards. An Uno deck contains 25 blue cards, including 2 draw 2 cards, 2 skip cards, and 2 reverse cards. When a draw 2 card is played, the next player must draw 2 cards and miss their turn. But if that next player also has a draw 2 card, they have the option of placing it down, making the following player draw 4 cards. Draw 2 cards can only be placed on a matching color or another draw 2 card. When a skip card is played, the next player is skipped and misses their turn. Skip cards can be placed on a matching color or another skip card. When a reverse card is played, the direction of the play reverses. Reverse cards can only be placed on a matching color or another reverse card. The probability of getting a blue card is about 23%, since there are 25 blue cards out of a total of 108 cards. An Uno deck also contains 25 yellow cards, including 2 draw 2 cards, 2 skip cards, and 2 reverse cards. The probability of getting yellow is the same as blue at 23%, since there are 25 yellow cards out of a total of 108 cards. An Uno deck also contains 25 red cards with 2 draws, 2 skips, and 2 reverses, again at a 23% chance. The last color is 25 green cards, including 2 draw 2 cards, 2 skip cards, and 2 reverse cards. The probability of getting a green card is of course 23%, since there are 25 green cards out of a total of 108. An Uno deck also contains 4 wild cards. When a wild card is played, the player chooses the color that the next player must put down. Wild cards can be placed on any other card. The probability of getting a wild card is about 4%, since there are only 4 wild cards out of a total of 108 cards. An Uno deck also contains 4 wild draw 4 cards. When a wild draw 4 card is played, the next player must draw 4 cards and miss their turn. The player also chooses the color that the following player must put down. But if the next player also has a wild draw 4 card, they have the option of placing it down, making the following player draw 8 cards. Wild draw 4 cards can be placed on any card, but can only be used if that is the player's only option. The probability of getting a wild draw 4 card is also about 4%, since there are 4 wild draw 4 cards out of a total of 108 cards. So to set up Uno, the chosen dealer shuffles all 108 cards and deals each player 7 cards. The remainder of the deck is placed face down to form a draw pile. The top of the pile is turned over to begin a discard pile. The discard pile can begin with any card except for a wild draw 4 card. So how many possible 7-card hands are there? For the first card, there are 108 options. The second card, 107 options. The third card, 106 options, and so on, until the 7th card where there are 102 options. But now we've overcounted since order doesn't matter, so we must divide by 7 factorial. This ends up giving us a possible 27,880,000,000 hands. This is the same as 108 choose 7, since we are choosing 7 cards from a total of 108 cards. Now we can begin playing. The player to the left of the dealer begins the game. If a player has no playable cards or doesn't want to use one of their playable cards, they must draw a card from the draw pile. If the card is playable, it may be used. Otherwise, it is the next player's turn. Once a player gets down to 1 card, they must yell Uno before the next player's turn. If the player is caught not saying Uno, they have to draw 2 cards. So what's the probability that our hand is a winning hand? That is, a hand that consists of a combination of all wild cards and wild draw 4 cards. In this case, we're going to pretend that we know that no player will hit us with a draw 2 or wild draw 4 card. Since there are 4 wild cards and 4 wild draw 4 cards, we have a total of 8 winning cards. So for the first card, we have a choice of 8 out of 108 cards. For the second card, 7 out of 107 cards. And then 6 out of 106 cards for the third. This continues through the 7th card, where we have a choice of 2 out of 102 cards. Multiplying these all together, we get about 2.9 times 10 to the negative 8%. This same problem can be solved by choosing 7 cards from our 8 winning cards. But then again, since order doesn't matter, we have overcounted, so we must divide by 108 choose 7. Now what about getting a hand with no wilds? That is, no wild cards or no wild draw 4 cards. We know that there are 100 non-wild cards, so for the first card we have a choice of 100 out of 108 cards. Again, this continues through the 7th card, where we have a choice of 94 out of 102 cards. Multiplying this together, we get 57%. Going back to combinatorics, we can also choose our 7 cards out of 100 and divide by our overcounting, or 108 choose 7. Obviously, we have a much higher chance of getting no wild cards over getting all wild cards. With this, we can now find the probability of getting a hand with at least one wild card. We could find the probability of getting 1 wild card, 2 wild cards, 3 wild cards, and so on, but there's a simpler way. We can use the complement, which is 1 minus the probability of no wilds. This gives us about 43% of being dealt at least 1 wild card. Here's the way of finding the individual probabilities. For each case, you would choose a certain amount from the number of wilds and the remaining hand from the number of non-wilds. Once again, we have to take into account our overcounting. Now for our final question. If we are playing with a maximum of 10 players, what is the probability that at least 2 of the players will have at least 1 wild card? Identifying this as a binomial distribution, we will let x be the number of hands with at least 1 wild. Now instead of finding the probability of all 2 through 10 players having at least 1 wild, we can find the complement. So we do 1 minus the probability of 0 players having at least 1 wild, minus the probability of 1 player having at least 1 wild. This gives us about 97% chance that out of 10 players, at least 2 hands will contain at least 1 wild card. Those are good odds. Thank you for watching, and I hope next time you play Uno, you'll better value wild and wild draw 4 cards.